Yeah, did good. Yeah, good idea. Yeah. I hide behind here, shall I? Hide behind here. Oh, he hasn't showed me what to do. Miles?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. 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 It's Sunday. It's day 3, the final day of Bases at the Barge 2021. But as we were talking in the car on the way down about it being the last day, and it's day 3, 3 is a magic number. So let's set the tone for the day with that, shall we? We've had some amazing speakers over 2 days. We've got some amazing speakers today. A slight tweak to the schedule to give everybody a little bit more time, and also a longer lunch break today because the Barge, bless them, are serving us a roast dinner. And it gives, nice. And it gives people a chance to talk, to mingle, and to discuss the many, many, many ideas that have been thrown up during the 2 days of this conference and what we're going to hear this morning. Housekeeping once again, if you have parked your car in the main car park, do use the brake to move it into the overflow down there, but I think most of you know that. If any of you don't know where the overflow is, come and see me. Toilets, ladies there, gents, through the corridor past the camping and opposite the painted sign, fire exit there and there. So, our first speaker of the day. Now, I've been looking forward to this all weekend because I first met Julie on Thursday night when we all arrived to set up the conference. And we had this most amazing conversation, which has continued sort of in threads over the weekend when we've had time to talk to each other. I mean, where do I start? We're talking a military background, monarch mind control, the Illuminati, the secret space program. They're just some of the areas that this woman has experience of. In fact, yesterday she said to me, "Gemma, I've experienced that many things. I'm amazed I'm still alive." So,
That's a bloody hell.
yeah, you did say that, actually. You did say
Bloody hell, amazing.
Bloody hell, I'm amazed I'm still alive. So I was like, wow, she's got a lot to say, and I'm going to let her say it. So please put your hands together and welcome our first speaker of the day, Julie Phelps.
Right, good morning, and thank you all for being here, and I hope you're enjoying yourself. I know the seats are a little bit hard, as I got numb bum yesterday, but, we manage what we can do. Well, today I'm going to talk about, various aspects, like the secret space program, a bit of my history, just briefly, and Space Command as well, because the 2 days before here, I was actually at Farnborough, at the launch of the British Space Command. It was at the Space Command Expo, and it was the first ever one in the UK. So I'll go into that further. So they knew who I was because the security there is pretty tight. Because everywhere you went, you already had a pre-badge printed out with the old scanny bit. And anywhere, every lecture you went to, laser scan, make sure you are who you are, laser scan as you come out, laser scan as you just about went anywhere, actually. So there's no doubt, I think it was a confirmation, really, of my background and everything, because it was a closed commercial space expo, so the general public wasn't allowed in. But it was quite interesting. There was aspects of it that was quite interesting. But I'll just tell you a little bit of my background first. My mainstream background was military, so RAF, Royal Air Force, as an aircraft mechanic propulsion, aircraft engines. So, I changed the engines. I did all the tough manual, mannish sort of things, recuperators, all sorts of the wingtip, all sorts of things I did. And then I went on to, the very day I left the Royal Air Force, I then joined Marconi in advanced space and military microchips, or semiconductors as they called them then. And even at the Spacecom, I went to a stand there, and they had microchips there. And the ones there were the ones I was working on in the 1980s. And she was saying that now they have 20, well, there's layers to microchips. Now they have up to 20 layers. When I was working on them right back in the 80s, we were working up to 16 layers, which were actually not supposed to exist in those days. So I was working on advanced tech right back there. And we used to use high-powered microscopes to check the processes that they went through. Sorry, I have a drink. When I was in the Royal Air Force, I remember getting to a point when I was stationed at RAF Cranwell that I always got picked for everything anyway because I was a woman and the only woman on the section. But I got picked for doing this so-called guard duty on the main gate every 3 weeks for a week. Well, I wasn't RAF regiment. It was like, well, why isn't anybody else getting this? Why have I got the short straw again? Anyway, I thought, well, you know, it's the way it goes. But after we're talking about, this is later on when I went to regression and also breaking free of the mind control, I realised I'd had screen memories put in. Because all I ever remembered of the guard duty was just like this bland, nothing really. It was just like, oh, I'd done a week's guard duty from 11 at night to 11 at morning, and that was it. And it was like, I can't really remember what I did. It was just standing on the gate, I think. And then it wasn't till later on, more recently, that those memories started to drift away. And what I recall now is they took me in with the back of one of these big green army trucks, which you have in the Air Force as well, to a secret location where we were working on advanced aircraft. And they wanted me there because there's a certain communication that women have that men don't have with advanced craft. So there were some visiting advanced craft that the craft would allow me in, and it wouldn't allow the men in. Or it would get rid of the men fairly quickly because it uses electronics to sort of get rid of them. And I remember the craft I went into, it didn't have a door. It was an organic craft. It didn't have a door. And when I approached it, I felt it. And it was kind of an ambient temperature, but a living feeling of skin. Kind of a skin or dolphin-y sort of look. And these are organic crafts, higher dimensional. Well, some of them are in this dimension, but like the Draco don't have as advanced craft as these. And when I came in, I got to a certain point, and it was like this. 1 minute I was outside, next minute I was in, but there was no like I stepped forward. I was kind of like in. So it was like, because they surround them with electromagnetic fields, and the higher dimensional craft have quantum vacuum around them, which means none of the Draco craft can attack them or anything because they don't exist in time and space. So you can't attack something that doesn't exist in time and space. So the higher dimensional craft they don't need to use portals or wormholes because they can kind of shift themselves and create their own dimensional shifts, so they can travel wherever they want. Now, the slightly lower level craft and the Draco, they tend to use portals. And so, again, they use frequencies to open portals, because I remember it being the Galactic Positioning System and also POPs, portal opening positions. So in order for you to get to from one location, say, you have to move your craft to a certain energy line, which are invisible to the naked eye, but they do exist. There's a web of energy lines throughout the whole universe. So you get to an energy line, and it's like a huge spider web. And then you use frequencies to open the energy lines, which kind of twists it, and that creates the portal opening. And so as you go through, you exist at one point in both locations in space and time at the same time. And then as you go through it, you're in the other location. But you may need to go on lots of these different web lines to get to your final destination. So it can sometimes take quite some time because, there's different dimensions, there's different galaxies. This is in, the portals tend to be in certain dimensions, but then you get multiple dimensions. So that gets quite complicated. That's that aspect. Now, when I went to the Space Command, the expo, I thought I'd see. I was curious anyway, and I was like a rebel as normal. I went in. I did not wear a mask, and I thought they're all wearing blooming masks. What are they like? I thought they'd be like the elite and not wear them because they don't bother. No, I was shocked. I went in and they were all wearing masks. They were all conforming. As soon as I went in, but I had my exemption badge thing, security jumped on me, didn't it? But they were okay. They were very polite because it was that sort of suit job, polite. They're not going to just drag you off and put you in the back of a van or whatever. But I said, no, I'm exempt. And they said, oh, right, that's okay, sorry. So they were very, very polite. But I was just observing them there. And as I heard the speakers there, and these are high-level speakers, there's like European head of Lockheed Martin. There's all those space agencies, all of them, they were all complying. And I'm like, oh dear, this is a bit interesting, because I thought, if the jabs affect those, because I'm sure they probably will get them, then we could lose a lot of people that are in the intellectual bracket. And meeting them, they were like, they weren't as you expect. Well, they weren't as I expected. They were just like, they were intelligent, but they were down to earth. They were like, they were just like, as you say, certain CEOs you meet and things like that. But when I went to the stands, I did challenge them. I didn't hold back. I was very polite, but I did say, I handed some of them a card and things like that. And I said, yes, I'm in communications, I said, right? And then they said, oh, right, okay, so I got chatting. I said, yeah, interdimensional beings. I have communication with interdimensional beings and things like that. Now, some of them, you could see a reaction with them, and it wasn't a normal reaction. It wasn't like, oh, she's talking a load of rubbish. No, it was like a program clicked in to the mind, and they kind of, it was like this shudder they had, and then they kind of, they blanked it. So I thought, yeah, programming. So some of them were definitely in programming. Others I talked to were like, yeah, okay, that's fine, And like UK Space, they've invited me to join UK Space, which is an official organisation as well. But partly the reason I wanted to go as well, I wanted to see what they were about. And what I found was that a lot of the language they were using is how to exploit space. How can they exploit this? It was like how they have that one of those key words. All the speakers, a lot of the speakers were saying, exploit this, exploit that. I thought, you idiots. I thought, that is not the way you should be doing this. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to hold back from them. I'm going to contact them. And I'm going to tell them, because they did also come forward. They were kind of floundering a bit too. They were saying, oh, we could do it with input from other people. We're just forming this here. And we want, we'd like input. So I thought, well, you're going to get some input from me then, aren't you? I'll be very diplomatic, because it's no good being like too straight, because they'll just delete the email. So, but yeah. But I am going to get involved with that, because I think they need guidance. They need to understand more fully where they're at. So what we've got the secret space program that is not totally connected with these group. So now the secret space program that I'm involved with originally was a negative one, controlled by the Draco. That's when I was at Mars. The Draco controlled that. The Draco controlled were influenced in part with some of the negative Nordics and things, with the Fourth Reich and all that lot, and what I call the Fifth Reich on Mars, because it's off-world. So that negative aspect, and this is what I was drawn into, because because of my bloodline, because I went through the mind control, trauma-based mind control, and then from that, when at age 9, I was bought by the Rothschild. And I remember Victor Rothschild. And he was extremely nice to me, actually, I recall. Actually, I didn't dislike him. I'm not so keen on Jacob, he's like, But, because, they are very negative. Jacob was very negative. So that's why you've seen everything shift. But it's not just him. You've got all the families that are in control. But I do believe Victor Rothschild was taken out, because his eldest son was taken out because he was one of the doorknob hangings, as they said. So it was like, so his son didn't match up to the criteria probably of the Illuminati, the direction they wanted to take everything. So then his other son Jacob took over, who obviously had the sort of psychopathic tendencies. And Victor, I remember him being very warm, very intelligent, and he actually did care about humanity. He had been in the war. He was involved in a lot of the secret projects, and you can even read up about that he was involved in the secret projects. We know he was at that level. He was directly involved in all these things. So I don't hold any negativity towards Victor, whether I should or not. Maybe that's control, programming. I don't know, but that's my memories of him. And when I was at RAF Halton doing my training on the aircraft, the officers' mess there was a Rothschild building. It was owned by the Rothschild. So I'm sure they would have had tunnels underneath, which I don't remember everything, because I remember going to Waddington Manor and going to the parties with the masks and things. I remember that aspect. And as I've recalled more, I remember being used in espionage. So I did have various alters, which I've tried to integrate now fully, because because I've got a degree in psychology. I've studied hypnotherapy. I've done psychodynamic counselling, cognitive behavioural therapy, all these sorts of things, and I've worked in the field of mental health, as well as all these aspects. And that helped me understand how psychiatrists work, what they would do if I'd gone to a psychiatrist or gone to a doctor or anybody official with my experiences. They would have locked me away, because I know exactly how the system operates. So I knew how to avoid that part of the system to survive and not get locked. Even now, if they try, even with me talking here, if they tried any of that, I know ways of getting around it that would, scupper their ideas. So, and I do know of people who've been involved in this section who've been locked away, been framed. I mean, James Casbolt, in jail, but now he's out of jail, but he's not allowed to contact. Now, I have memories of James Casbolt. Sophia has memories of me, but I can't quite picture her yet. I need probably a photograph of her when she was a bit younger. I just can't quite see her face clearly, but she most certainly remembers me. And various other secret space program or super soldiers remember me as well, and I remember them. Anna, who's one of my friends now on Facebook, she's actually in Chile now. I remember her when I went through the trauma-based mind control as 6 years old, and they kept us together, sometimes doing joint missions, sometimes setting one person against the other. So, in other words, they would sort of threaten to kill her if I didn't do X, Y, or Z, because they paired us together. So, and I never thought I'd meet the girl I was with, and I have memories of then, when I had a choice in the underground base when I drew the short straw, and they gave me a choice between the little boy or the little girl, and then because I chose the little girl, they killed the boy in front of me and blamed me, which just was so traumatic. That's how they got me. That's how, at that point, I went into catatonic shock, and then everything blanked out. So then they can program you, because I was in a state of absolute shock at that point. But to move on from that, I mean, I've moved a lot more further forward since then. I've been involved in the tunnels. Now, with the tunnels, I might probably, yeah. Oh, flip. Maybe press it harder. What have I done? Oh, wait a minute, I might get next. Will it do it if I do next? Oh, yeah, I did it. Yeah, it doesn't just click. I was like, should be doing this. Right, so this is just a tunnel. It's not one of the secret ones, but it's one you can visit, actually. But the network of tunnels under Great Britain and all around the world, there's lots of underground tunnels and underground bases. Now, it was actually confirmation for me. I wish I could have found the article, because I get military news as an email, right? And they were saying on that they want to train more soldiers for underground operations. And I thought, well, there's a key thing, isn't it? Underground operations? Why would they need to be underground if there's not tunnels? So that was kind of confirmation that they needed more soldiers to go underground. But like I've talked to before, the underground tunnels and the missions we were sent on, and still are, they use ordinary soldiers for certain tunnels. Some of the tunnels you can't use human beings in because they're too deep. So they either use an avatar, so they can put your consciousness in an avatar, which may be like a cyborg or a different clone, a different species or something like that. And from there, you can operate in areas that no human can operate. And also, you can be sent into areas where they don't want to send ordinary soldiers, because they will definitely get post-traumatic stress disorder as soon as they go in, let alone try and accomplish things. Because when I started to recall some of the memories, because I broke down their mind control, I started to get post-traumatic stress disorder, which I did do I did do a podcast with Miles, and I was upset. I was deeply upset and distressed at what I'd seen. But from that, I moved on, and also they got tighter with the mind wipes. So they're very strict. I get impressions now. I know if I've done certain missions, but I don't have total recall anymore. And I'm kind of glad in one way, but I'm not in another, because I don't want to recall some of the things I've seen. But it does give me that, well, when I realised as well, that the children they brought out, not all of them survived. A lot don't, because they're just not able to, But the good thing is their souls are freed, because it's not just about the adrenochrome, it's not just about all the other aspects of trade and all the rest and all that. They also, if you're tortured to death, then there's a chance that your soul can be trapped with demonic, because you're in such a negative state when that occurs. The demonic use a form of cube imprisonment where you relive the same thing over and over and over. But people like Chris Fleming help free souls from that, because the angels and other higher beings cannot go that down on such a lower vibration, or they get lost and they can get trapped. But also on Earth, we're in an in-between zone, and we have our physical body too that can anchor us to Earth. So when we do it, we have to protect. But when we can help, we can kind of hold a hand out to these souls and help free them. And I have helped free souls, and I'm still learning that aspect. And others are more capable, so they're freeing the ones that are from the underground bases and that. So it's actually a very positive thing. You think, oh, I don't want to lose any lives. But actually, to free a soul it's just wonderful. The experience I've had with freeing souls, you end up crying, because it's so lovely. And more recently as well, I read an article about Fauci and his experiments about splicing together so-called animals, bits of animals together. Well, I'm certain Fauci as well is involved in these underground bases where they're not just splicing bits of animals together. As I saw, they were splicing bits of humans together, as you would expect. So Fauci is most certainly one of the most evil characters there is, and of course he's been to do with he's nicely, and it was, or at least he's been called out a bit now, but in the position of really driving home this vaccine nonsense. And the pandemic nonsense. But it is getting more positive. The secret space programs, there's the negative and the positive one, as I said. The Alliance has struggled to get it together to actually get to a point of kind of subtle Cold War fights with the negative. But we are at a point where we're holding our own. And the whole point is, Spacecom and all them need to be guided in a better way. They're still on the money side, we've got to make a profit side. Whereas they need to be guided into a more benevolent way. It's not about exploiting. That is definitely a no-no. Not about exploiting. It's about a symbiotic union with everything we do. So if we go to an asteroid, there might not be any life on there, so we can mine that or whatever, no problem. But if we go to another planet, we need a strategy in place, and they were actually calling for this at Space Command. They were saying, well, we kind of want to develop more of a strategy here. And I thought, yes, they have been evolving in a different route because it's about humanity breaking free from the grip of the Draco, which always controlled everything. So the alliance was formed, and you know, in America, you've got, yeah, they call it Trump Space Force, but it was existing before him. And he's not in charge of it. He never was. But he was, you know, he agreed with it. And he launched it as an official thing rather than secret. So, and yeah, it's based out of Cheyenne Mountain. But they've got a hold up there. And there's a lot of military that are on the kind of, they're too worried about putting their reputations or rank on the line or even their lives on the line unless it's a certainty they will win. Because if it had all moved forward at the wrong point to completely take over, say, America or whatever, if they'd failed or something had gone wrong, then those involved would have been classed as traitors and electric chair or whatever in whatever district. And these are just normal human beings who are military personnel. Then, you know, they're not superhuman. Oh, well, I'm going to do this no matter what. You know, they're like thinking, I wonder if I'm going to survive this, or well, what should I do, sort of thing. So that's what I'm finding. I'm finding we are on the cusp of freedom, and I do believe we will get freedom. But we're going to go through some more dark times before that occurs, unfortunately. This is what my higher dimensionals are telling me. And but also, I'm meeting a lot of people, including my daughter, who only told me the night before I came away here that she'd had the jab. She'd been quiet for a couple of weeks, and I was like, "Oh, have you been quiet?" I just suspected she might have done it, and she had. And I was like, "Oh, for God's sake!" But I was upset, obviously. But I mean, I met all the people who've had it, and it's not their fault because, you know, there's so much coercion, so much force. You can't do this, and in some countries you can't even go to the supermarket now unless you have the jab. So some of the experts in the field are looking to help people who've had the jab, and don't get it if you can help it. But some are saying ivermectin can help it. I don't know, you know, they're still learning, but these are people like Professor Van der Bosch and others, Dr. Richard Fleming, and other. I mean, there's so many doctors now involved in this, epidemiologists and virologists. And also, one of the other doctors, and I can't remember if it's Tenpenny, but it was talking about pine needle tea. Now, I hadn't researched that too much because as far as I knew, my whole family hadn't had the flaming jab. So I was looking more at the preventative measures like nasal sprays. There's a certain name for it. I've got them. And it's kind of used for rhinitis, if I say that properly. And it kind of kills any germs that could be in your nasal passages and things. So if you get a symptom of something, then, you just use a spray and it'll kill it. And also vitamin D, as we know, and things like that. But don't give up hope, because there's elements in all this. We are mind, body, and spirit. So yes, we have to look after our bodies, which I'm not expert at always, so I'm working on that one. Mind, so learn as much as you can. Research, almost nobody is on YouTube now because they've all been taken down from YouTube. So it's Brighteon, BitChute, brand new YouTube. Rumble is now, it's starting to take people down. But there are still some on there. So at the moment, we can still go to there, especially to look at the evidence from these expert doctors and professors who have tried to bring everything forward and were totally ignored. And the spiritual side, because the power of spirit is really, really powerful, but we need all three, mind, body, spirit, because we are in the physical body. So, say, I told this the other day, when I was in Canada and the satanic group had been warned by 5 people that they were coming for me, I had to escape to a safe house. Now, if I'd sat there going, well, I'm protected by the angelic thing, they would have come in, kidnapped me and done horrendous torture to me, which I knew exactly what they would have done because, unfortunately, I knew what they did to others. So I most certainly didn't want that. So I was sort of... So I learned through this to listen to my guides to avoid things. So even when, like, my GPS goes wrong or something else and it takes me the wrong route, I think, fine, I stay calm. Right, I'm going this way because it can be to avoid things. And this can happen with other people, not just me as well. It's really looking internally at your own spirituality, about that connection with your higher self or your guides, connection with God, which is what they want to sever anyway, isn't it? They want to break apart that connection, and it's so important. Because, I just learned firsthand how amazing things have occurred that I never thought would occur. I told this the other day as well, and it's only a little thing, but it was amazing. When I went, I'd gone through the mill, and I got to the airport to come back to Britain. I thought I'd got all the payments in order. The bank was really playing up with me. My house was going to be sold in a few days' time, yet they wouldn't loan me any money at all. And I knew they'd had a nod, don't let her have it. So I was like, oh, God, I hope I've got enough. And I thought, right, I've covered everything. I got literally to the airport, and I got my dog in the kennel, which took a while. And then, he said, by the way, there's another $1,000 here. I went, what? Where's that come from? Where was that on the document? It says, oh, no, it's another $1,000 here in the middle bit of the section set. What? Anyway, I don't even know what it was for. I don't even know if it was made up or whatever. But I only had so much money, and I didn't have any more. I said, well, what if I contact my mum? Oh, you haven't got time. And so I was like, I've had it. That moment was like one of those moments I'm thinking, I can't go back. I'm going to get killed. I'm stuck here. I've got nowhere to go. I thought, what's going to happen? And that instant, the taxi driver who had never seen me before in my entire life, but we travelled to the airport together, he said, I'll lend you the money. And I said, you're an angel. I said, you're a true angel. I was like, I can't believe this happened. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And I'm like, this is so strange. So he lent me the money, everything else. I got to Britain safely. And the first person I paid back when I got my money was him, because with a bit of extra as well, for thanking him so much for what he did, because I never expected that level of help and support of humanity. And this is what I found along the way. I mean, when I was being targeted with the electronic, one of the aspects of that, sleep deprivation is the first aspect. They stop you from sleeping. Well, that soon gets to you. You don't have any sleep whatsoever. It starts. Then they kept upping it. I was trying to counter it. They kept upping it. My skin started to burn. My eyes started to burn. My teeth. Well, I lost 5 teeth from that. But my jaw, my head, and when it got really bad, my internal organs started to burn. And so I was just at one point. I was at a point of like giving up. So there was 2 incidents this happened. My friend managed to, even my computer was being affected and the plaster above my bed was cracking. And I had the Mylar grounding sheet and Mylar blanket, but I was so exhausted, I didn't have the energy to, what I'd read, if you strip a mains cable and just leave the earthen copper strip and take the other 2 away, you can attach it to a blanket, as long as it's a metal, like Mylar blanket. And that creates an earthing system to reduce the level of EMF that's hitting you, or microwaving that's hitting you. And I was so exhausted, I hardly had any, I didn't have the energy to walk down and get the cable. And my friend managed to get online, he shouted at me, go and get that cable. And so thank God he shouted at me, because he ordered me to do it. He says, I'll stop with you. I said, do you go and do it? So I got it and I stripped it, and I was just absolutely on my last. I just wanted to die at that point because I was in so much pain. I was so exhausted. I just thought, I've had enough. But I did it, and I earthed it, and I covered myself in Mylar, and I actually got to sleep. I hadn't slept for days, and I actually got some sleep, which gave me the energy to carry on then. Now, they upped it again. I was like, oh, not more. How am I going to counter it this time? Well, it just so happened, at that point I was in the Canadian Connecting Consciousness group, and there's a group of us who are really great friends there, and we found out we're kind of family from different ages. And one of them there, Carla, she had connections to higher beings. And she said, because again I was exhausted, she says, if you accept it, I will bring my higher beings in, and they will send a beam of energy to you where these electronics cannot touch you. This is source energy, it cannot touch you. So I started to feel the beaming coming in, which was real, and the other group, the others in the group, I feel it. And then I started to feel it, but then I felt the microwaving going up. I thought, oh no. And I was literally couldn't stand up. I was like, couldn't sit. I was like doing this because the pain was racing through my body. But as the frequencies changed, it finally totally overtook what they did. So it was like surrounded me with an energy, like a pulsing energy that protected me. And once I got that, I accepted it in my body and it protected me. So I was then protected from that aspect. So what did they do then? They started, it was a couple of days, they were obviously scratching their head, oh, we can't do it with that way, and what can we do now? So then they started to attack my family with voice to skull. Not me at first, my family. So I was trying to look after my mother-in-law who was in the house, and she said, well, she saw somebody at the back. I did show this recording on one of the podcasts. I played it, my mother-in-law saying this. I didn't want to record too much of what she said because, she was in a very bad state. But she was getting voice to skull. And so I knew my family was getting hit. Well, they were trying to lower my vibration, so I'd disconnect from the higher dimensional's energy field so they could get back at me. That's what their aim was. And then they started the voice to skull to me, and they were saying, we're going to target everybody around you until they're dead, and all this. They kept doing this, and it was like, I was really upset, obviously. I was like, oh my God, I'm already seeing it with my mother-in-law. What's going to happen? But then they made the very silly mistake of doing that, because that wasn't an AI beaming at me. That was a human being on a set doing it. And because they did that, I remote viewed him back. And when I remote viewed him back, because I had like this connection then, and I remote viewed him back, and I said to him, I didn't shout at him, I said to him, do you enjoy this? You know, do you have a wonderful time and you go home at the end of the week, I've killed so many people or whatever, you know, do you really enjoy this? And I was doing this straight into his mind. So I was like, so I got into his consciousness. And after a while, and he started to talk to me, and he said, my name's John, and I'm really sorry. He says, I can't do this anymore with you at all. And he says, I'm going to talk to my supervisor, I can't do it. So then I was still connected with him when he was talking to his supervisor. And they had an argument and that. But then it stopped. It completely stopped. And after that point, 3 days later, I got another group, because this group were in like offices, more like the CIA sort of offices above. It may have been underground, but it was more like, not that military, it was more civilian, but sort of intel-ish. But then this other group came in, and this was voice to vision to school, so this was highly advanced. And they beamed in, and when they beamed in, they spoke to me, and I could see the room. It was like a 3D hologram, in a way, is how I could see the room and everything. But everybody looked solid. I could turn and look around and everything. I couldn't walk forward, but I could turn and look. And there was 5 guys stood in front, and they said to me, we want you to join the Alliance. And these were a Russian group, actually, but they were connected to the Americans. And they were Black Wolf. They had the insignia of Black Wolf Special Operations. And they showed their computers were very advanced. They with rounded edges and like built in. And it was definitely underground base, that one. And but they wanted me to join them, and I said, hang on, I've just left one. Are you going to be as bad as the others? They said, we're not going to torture you. You know, we're being honest with you in that. So I resisted for a couple of days, but they kept kind of doing the voice to Scott, oh, join us, Julie. I said, only on one condition, that I'm aware of some of the stuff you do. That's the only condition I have. So, you know, you don't get paid. So it's like, you know, it's an unpaid job. But I've been physically abducted or physically taken, and they do various implants and you name it. And I have had one of the other ones removed that I had from a very young age. Well, or it may have been put in when I was in the military, but it set off the EMF meter as an alarm. That's how high it was, the signal. Because I found it and showed it on a Connecting Consciousness meeting, which was public at the time, they abducted me a few days later, so I couldn't show that, which left a scar, which was a kind of triangular scar, really sore, but it was like a line like this and dots. So they took that one out, so I couldn't use it as evidence anymore. But that's that aspect. And then I've had a lot of communication with various beings the more I step forward, because I made a deal with, when I found all this out that was happening to me, I realized I couldn't hold on to the anger. I needed to step forward, let go of the fear, let go of the anger, in order to move forward. So I just forgave everybody, and I let go of all that. And because of that, a higher dimensional alliance approached me. And they say, well, do you want to join us? So I said, well, yeah. So that puts me in a position of mediating between not just Earth people, but different beings. And it was moving forward from that as well. So loads of different things occurred, and including me going up to a Palladian ship in a higher dimension, which actually, when you experience that, it's like a clamp coming off your head, your perception, your consciousness expands. And you think in a totally different way. You've got no negative coming in at all. It's like, oh, it's just so beautiful. And it's because you've not got any of this negative demonic there. And they got wicked sense of humour too, but they were really funny. But yeah, I had a look around the ship. They would help me on a healing bed there as well, which helped heal me a bit because I was still really ill. But it was just such a difference there. They were crystalline ships, and they had an energy field that ran through the center and round. These were the Palladian disc ones with they have other ships, but these were like the main ones. And it has like a plasma form of energy right in the center that kind of created the energy field. But when I came back down to Earth after that, you kind of partly don't want to come back down, but I thought, yeah, I haven't finished here. But it's like a clamp going on your consciousness and perception again. So you know how you were up there, so you're like fighting against all this clamp here, thinking, oh my goodness me. And then you realize it's a prison planet, because you think it wasn't like that there, but it is here. So that's another realization that I got. And then I know I've been using a lot of experiments, genetic experiments and things like that. And I found out through a memory I always had of seeing men in lab coats. I was at a party, and the men in lab coats invited me to one of the research labs. Oh, we got something to show you, we're so excited. So I go in there, and then see this poor little baby whose body is arachnid and whose head is human. And I'm thinking, and I burst out crying, hours crying for that, because it's like, how can you do this? How can this person being exist in our normal world? What have you done? And I was so angry with them, and I'm so upset for the baby. But going forward in time, I've got a friend, Daniel, who is from Tribe of Dan too. He's very psychic. He's also has abilities to get rid of jinn, so he's helped me a lot when I've been attacked, actually. And from that, he said, well, you've got this hidden memory. Let's explore if this was a real memory or whether it's some sort of dream you had or something. So let's connect back. So he could remote back to when this baby was there as a baby, right back to that memory. And then he said, right, let's connect to now. So all of a sudden, I got this connection with this more adult being that's arachnid, part human. And I also got this connection that they'd taken my DNA, spliced a bit of arachnid in me, taken my DNA, spliced it with arachnid, and so, I was partly involved in this. And I said, because of the connection, I said, and I had terrible arachnophobia, but despite that, I said, right, that's it. I accept you as my son, and I send you love. And it almost brings me to tears now, because I thought, who has he got to love him? Who has he got to love him? And he had a beautiful soul. And so people saying that these hybrids don't have souls, there may be some that are spliced together without souls, but some do have souls. And because of my connection there with him, his name's Samuel, he's in an underground base, and I still can connect with him. I haven't met him physically yet. But because of that, another species of arachnid have approached me, and it was witnessed by my friend as well, because we very much connect. And these are giant jumping spiders, very, very large, but extremely benevolent. They do not eat any form of meat. They farm this fungusy, mossy sort of substance underground in their own pocket dimension. That's what they survive on. And they're very, very caring. In fact, they sent one of them to me physically, which I did meet. But when they started to teach me, when they sent this one physically, I saw it on the chimney outside, and it's hard for me because I'm trying to get over arachnophobia here, and it's it was only a small one. It was a 4-foot arachnid on my chimney because I was upstairs and I could see out my window and it was level because it was a 2-level house. It was on the chimney. I was like, stay calm, stay calm. They don't mean you any harm, stay calm, but they're very calming. And then it came in the house and opened my door, my bedroom door. My dog started to growl but calmed down. And then it went on the wall, so it was a 4-foot one on the wall, but I didn't fully see it. I sensed it, but I knew it knew not to fully be present in its full form. But then it touched my leg, and I felt the touch, And then it started to tell me things about the history. We've been here for millions of years, right? We're a benevolent species. And, there are all different sorts of species of arachnids, not just one. And they were explaining their history and how they formed. So then another time, they took me down into where they lived and kind of put me in an arachnid body. I don't know how they created it, but they did. I couldn't walk very well. I didn't even dare walk at first because they had babies around. But they explained, again, their culture, how they operate, how they exist, and how these very benevolent ones do. They control their population, not by, we're going to do this, that, and the other. They pick the wisest female and the most benevolent and the most intellectual, and they pick the male. So they get together, and they only produce babies when they need to, when some of them have died or whatever, and then the whole colony looks after the babies, but they never overproduce, they never get out of hand. And each of the other arachnids takes a baby and teaches it. If they see any anomalies in it, they actually help it develop in a benevolent way. So they really help them. And if one gets injured, they help it. You know what I mean? They have psychic abilities to help heal it and everything. And then, it's just, this is how they operate. So it's a very benevolent society. It's a very good society, actually. And I've learned a lot from them. But also there's arachnids as well that are higher dimensionals that actually help create the energy lines of the universe. So we've got those forms of arachnids. You do have shadow arachnids that are from negative projections from the negative energy side, but they're not truly arachnids. They are shadow being arachnids. So they tend to be very shadowy, very dark, and very, basically nasty, But they're like a jinn, but in the shape of an arachnid, and they're not good. You got to defend against them using recitations or whatever method you want to use. Sometimes I've had such negativity sent at me, I've had to call others in because I haven't handled it myself. It was only a few weeks ago I've had 2 incidents recently. One was I was Zooming one of my friends, and we saw this blackness come into my room. Literally, the lights were starting to dim and everything. I thought, this is not good. And I felt this negativity coming in. Then I had a mirror on the wall, and it started to cover the mirror, and it was jet black as it was covering the mirror. I thought, this is a real negative entity. So I was like, call everybody in. We need help. Because I did recitations, and it was going back. As soon as I stopped, it started coming forward again. I thought, I ain't got the power on my own for this one. So we called in others of a group and that, and they came in. And between us, with our combined energy, because if you join together your energy, it creates some far more powerful thing. And also you bring in higher beings as well. And I'm still working and learning. If I was really good at it, I could have done it on my own and just brought in the angels and everybody else and got rid of it. But I'm still learning. So I had to get others in on this one. And it worked. It got rid of it. And then another incident a couple of weeks ago was there was a negative portal opened outside my house. My dog picked up on it. And I went outside with my dog. And I saw this portal up in the sky. It was like a black portal, like twisting. I thought, oh dear, that's not positive. And I felt like a ship. It was so shadowy, it was hard to see. But I felt a ship, and then I felt a Draco coming in. I felt the presence, and it was just beyond a certain point, and I was like, oh dear. And I felt that fear coming into me, because I do not get on with Draco, or most of them anyway. And I thought, I'm getting that lower dimensional, really feeling, all my instincts were like, run, lock the house door. You're going to get ripped apart sort of feeling. And it was like, oh, sugar. But I called in all the beings. I called in the Pleiadians, I called in the arachnids, which are some of the arachnids who really get those. Not the benevolent, there's another one that's in between that helps protect me. And what it did is it created an energy field that stopped the Draco fully coming in physically, so it got rid of it. So I was rather grateful for that. But then I went round, I blessed some salt, I blessed water and everything. I went round the garden with salt. Then I did all the rooms of the house and the windows and everything with salt. Thought, I'm going to get rid of this, I'm going to get it out and everything else. So that's what I did on that occasion too. So yeah, it's a tit for tat. They're always trying to get at me, but cross fingers. But each time I learn. So every time they've hit me with something, I've learnt from it. So I was thinking, sod it. I've learnt, so you can't hit me again that way, so good. But then, of course, they get a bit imaginative and then do a different way. I think, oh, God, not again. But I always call them my friends anyway if I get any problems, which I'm really grateful. I've got fantastic friends who've really, really helped me, so great. So do any of you have any questions? Hello, you right? Oh, right, okay. That's for the audience, because obviously I can hear you. I didn't go through the slides, did I? Oh, well. I'll do that in a minute.
1, 2. There we go. So, first question of the day, Mr. Tony Chin. Oh, look. This will be a good question.
Hi, it's only a quickie, really. I was just thinking about the arachnid types that you're talking about. Are they at all related to the mantids that we hear about?
No, totally
no,
different.
It's a totally
different species altogether. And some of the arachnids are in between. There's one species that have adopted me, literally as one of their clan, and I call them the Black Ops arachnids because they're pretty scary. You don't want to get on the wrong side of them and think, thank God they're on my side. So, there are some species of arachnids that are pretty difficult. And I haven't even talked about the Fae yet, actually, because they're moving on with those too.
Okay. Simon Park's not involved then?
No.
A question here at the back?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry. So are they about to disclose aliens now? ETs, should I say, our ET friends? Is that official?
It's an ongoing battle.
Right.
We're in a difficult position at the minute. We've still got some challenges to go through, and they may try and do the starvation one. We haven't got enough food or something. But it's an ongoing battle. We're in the eye of the storm. These battles are going on, and we're not totally aware. Even in space, they're going on. There are space fights go on, and you may see beams flashing or something like that, but you may not. And sometimes you see like craft, look like rockets crashing down. Well, they can be crafts being taken out. So there's so many different battlefields at the moment. There's like the Alliance, and I call it the other one the Federation, but you may call it something else. But this is what I call it, because the Federation is. There are good people in the Federation and good beings, but overall, the main power behind it is the Draco. So it's still got that power base, but even within the Draco, there's some rebels. So even within that, some of the queens are starting to fight, but they want to change. They want to evolve finally, because in over millennia, they haven't evolved at all. They're just like, well, God, we don't need to be any better than this. But they don't. But some of them are changing. Even they're changing. So we've got ongoing battles. Now, the Alliance, as it says, it means that the planet has its own culture, its own system, benevolent system, known only to do with the Draco have you any form of like monetary system. You coexist. It's a more symbiotic lifestyle within the Alliance, but you do still have to have warriors within the Alliance, or else they're all going to get, there's still different dimensions within the Alliance, there's still different beings. So again, it's an ongoing war right now. It's an ongoing war here, and it's an ongoing war up there. So, and then you've got different dimensional beings that are coming together, like the Fae now. Now people say, oh, the Fae, you could call them interdimensional beings if you don't want to call them Fae. But there's so many different types of Fae. Let me see if I can... I'll just go back to this. Right, Bohemian Grove, right? This was quite to do linked with the arachnids. And this one, it says, spiders come not. So, Bohemian Grove isn't exactly a positive place on the planet, is it? because it's where they do ritual sacrifice and all the rest of it. So why have they got that guard against arachnids or spiders? It's because they don't want the benevolent ones, to come in. They're trying to put a force field around to stop the benevolent ones taking them out, basically. So that's the reason, and that is really good evidence there for that. And then Fae. I'll go into the Fae now. Fae aren't just your little fairies, as been talked about before. There's all different shapes, sizes. They're so diverse. They're almost like a whole different... And some people class the Sasquatch as Fae, because they class them as interdimensionals and all connected as Fae. Now, I have felt the presence of Sasquatch, but I still have a little bit of an issue with Sasquatch, although they're benevolent towards me. They are pretty scary. So I'm still getting used to their energy. But they have told me, along with others, that they're going to help me start to develop the ability to open portals, not just psychic portals, but physical portals using psychic energy. And not just me will be able to do it. Eventually, a lot of people will be able to do it. But you've got to be at a certain frequency to be able to do this. And of course, I can't do it on my own because I might end up in a brick wall, or I was like, pretty scary stuff going through a portal, because you don't want to, land in a big ocean or something like that. I think, oh God, I can't get that spirituality back right now, and I'm stuck in the middle of an ocean. Oh dear. So you've got to be able to be exact where you go and learn that process. Well, the Sasquatch have got that. Not all the Sasquatch are the same, though. Some are some are not as evolved as others. So the higher dimensional Sasquatch, they can phase in and out. The others and they go into different dimensions and portals, so they can go across the world, everything else, and there's a lot of them. And as our frequencies on the planet changes, due to fact our position in the galaxy, we're getting a coming together of frequencies, so that we're going to have more and more sightings of Fae, more and more sightings of physical Fae, more and more sightings of all different types of beings, because those frequencies are kind of joining together. So that's why we're getting more sightings of Sasquatch and things like that. It's because the frequencies are changing. But it's about respecting the Fae. Not all there's some negative Fae, and then there's some that are indifferent. Some don't like humans very much. So you've got to prove yourself to them. You've got to prove you're worthwhile getting to know. And they have got a wicked sense of humour too. So they do get up to mischief. So you've got to watch that as well. But I do love them because they have that joyous sort of bubbliness about them. Or a lot of them. Some are grumpy, but they're all different, like humans, really. But all that's going to come together more. So, all of us are going to start experiencing this in time. We're all going to need to prepare for seeing more beings, whether it's Fae or other dimensional beings. And it's not always easy seeing these beings. It's not always even for me, it's not always easy. But, it's something that as human beings we need to evolve to understand. And partly this is why regular governments don't want to do disclosure, because they realise various different levels that how can humanity cope with this. But humanity can cope with this. But for some who are really asleep, they're going to be so shocked if they see certain beings walking down the road that, they just won't cope with it. It could even, we know from some of the underground bases, some of the beings they came across, it gave guards heart attacks. That was in Dulce, but or Area 51. But so some of these are so scary to us, but they were particularly higher dimensional beings. But not all the higher dimensional beings are all different shapes and sizes and tentacles and all the rest of it. They're not all like the light being is so perfectly angelic, and they're not all like that. They're like, well, look at the creatures on Earth. Look at all the diversity of Earth creatures we have here. We have so many different types, from octopuses or octopi to, which I do love, to birds and insects and all the rest of it. So we have almost a mirror of a lot of these beings within the actual physical realm here. So any more questions? Or
There's one here at the back, and then I'll come to the gentleman in red just there.
Okay. Hello, Julie.
Hi.
Hi. I'm very interested in the spider arachnid thing, because all my life I've really liked spiders. Tiganaria, the jumping spiders, the long-legged focus things are maybe not quite so lovely. But I just wondered, why do you think that humans are so scared of spiders?
We're
And
programmed.
I have to say, they do look terrifying. They've got 8 eyes on the top of the head. And it's the way they walk with that very purposeful thing up your arm. I just wondered if you knew, really.
I relate to that 'cause I was absolutely terrified of them. Now, I've worked on that very, very hard. But part of the Draco program, and because we're farmed on planet Earth, was to instill a fear of arachnids. I remember going through programming within the trauma-based programming where they purposely put me in the room of like tarantulas, just driving fear home into me, just to sort of really reinforce that. And I think Sophia touched on that as well about spiders, and others have as well. So it's not just the regular, you can have the innate fear of spiders, but also when you've been through the trauma-based mind control, they're literally traumatizing you with spiders. So I had an absolute terror of spiders. A little one that big, and I'd be like running out the rooms. I've come a long way since then, but so yes, programming, because basically we've been farmed on Earth, we've been in control, they say, what's a great commodity on Earth? It's not really money. They can take the gold, which is always a good commodity, but it's DNA. It's genetics, because we have certain genetics that are sought after. So it's us. We're the cattle. So it's time for us to break free from this nonsense, so we have our own rights, our own capabilities to defend ourselves, to move forward. And this is the battle. They want to knock us down to ground level again, so that, they can, like a harvest, basically. But there's a fight on this time more than ever before, because we've got all the dimensionals coming in and everything to help us, whereas it was a different society, it was a different time before. So we do have time and space as well, distortion. So beings from the future can help us, and it can get very complicated if you go down that line. I'd have to really think about how to explain some of that. But you see, I've also got the Monroe Gateway program, HemiSync program. That takes you step by step through different ways of altering your consciousness or expanding your consciousness so that you can explore different dimensions. It makes it easier. I got it because I wanted to make it easier to communicate with the other dimensional beings, because I was finding it difficult and I had to go through somebody else a lot of the time because I couldn't quite tune in very well. So that's helped me tune in personally now, rather than ringing my friend up, can you do this for me? So that's really helped me as well. And also, like, the level 3 of that is like, Tony was talking about remote viewing. So you've got the remote viewing level, but then you can go further up from that to different dimensions, to different, even time and space cease to exist in certain one of these as soon as you expand. But I can only do it with the Monroe tapes. They're like you put headphones on. So I can't always get to the really higher bits without that assistance yet. But I'm still working on things. And I know Tony's going to be doing some of that later on. So the CIA was using the Monroe technique as well for remote viewing. And that was a kind of level 3, wave 3 level, because it goes up to 7 waves and there's like something like 26 lessons. So that was level 3 remote viewing. But they also use, as Tony knows, they use like these ideograms. I don't use that. I kind of use my connection skills. I don't use ideograms. I've never learnt that because I've always been psychic. So, and I'm exploring more and more and working more and more on trusting my own psychic ability. At first, and I still do it, I call my friends in, am I right? Am I correct here? And they help me, and they're helping me trust my own abilities again. Because I have that inkling of fear. Is there a hidden program within me still? And I have found hidden ones. So as I move along, they keep an eye on me too, to make sure that I don't fall back into some sort of mind control, that they can't get to me. So they keep a close eye on me. So I'm very, very lucky that way. So I do consider myself really, really fortunate. That's why I want to move forward. That's why I want to do what I can, because I'm so grateful to all this help I've had. That's it, really. Any more questions?
There's this gentleman here in the red, and then Tina at the front, if you've got time, which I think we have.
I'll try and be quick. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Amazing life you led, and congrats on surviving it.
No.
Back to Earth for a sec. Do you have any update on whether President Trump's coming back? Simon Park seems to have gone very quiet, and it was supposed to be July the 4th, wasn't it?
I don't hold my breath about that, to be honest. You see, Trump was never in charge of the Space Force as such. He was invited in to launch it in a more. If it carried on at that point, he would have been. It would have come a lot further forward. But as I said, they still want to keep within the law there. So I can't, at the moment, see Trump coming back in. But it's all ongoing, so I don't know. I don't think Simon knows. I don't think even President Trump might not know. You know, it's all an ongoing process at the moment. But I wouldn't say, oh, everything's cut and dry. Just hang in there. Just do this. Everything will be fixed next week. We'll all be fine. Well, next week comes and it ain't, is it? So it's like it gets worse. So we're going to go through some difficult times, and it may be. I mean, I've studied the World Economic Forum too, so I'm studying what they do, and they most certainly are aiming for food shortages, manufactured, of course, but food shortages. So they may aim for that, but it depends if they win out on that one. But they do want to change the farming to drone and automated farming. They want to get rid of all farmers, everybody off the land except the automated machines, and of course them probably with their own mansion, all on their own, we've got all this space to ourselves, and what's left of humanity squished into the little cities. So they're trying to, it's like the Highland clearances going on, and if you study what's going on in farming, you see it going on in Canada, you see it going on in Britain, especially the small farmers are being hit hard with everything, every rule they bring in. I mean, flipping land in Britain, you're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to sneeze even on your own land. It's like you own your own land, supposedly, but you're not allowed to stay on it. You're not allowed to more than 28 days. And everything you do on it, you're supposed to have a permit, and if they grant the permit to you and all the rest of it. So all these regulations are in there to basically charge farmers to the ground so they can't afford to be farmers anymore. And all the subsidies are going globally. I mean, it's like the Indian farmers. They've been up in arms because of what's been happening there. Canada are under pressure. I know farmers in Canada, right, because I lived there, and I've got friends who are farmers, and they were telling me how the smaller farmers aren't able to sell to the supermarkets. Only the corporations can. And the tractors they're using are like almost $1 million and something ridiculous. I'm like, how can you have a tractor that expensive? But they do. And all these astronomical expensive vehicles and things they're using. So they share between them. But it's still, they're closing the doors for them to be able to sell. So the only ones that are surviving really at the moment, they're selling like local market stalls. So they're opening their own stalls. So people are trying to buy from the local farmer. So that is one benefit. That's what we should do in Britain. We should open more of these farm shops. And some of the farmers are doing that actually just to survive, because they can't sell the lamb to the supermarket, so they're having to sell it themselves through their own shops and things. So even that aspect is being under target, so that's part of it as well.
Tina, you have a question?
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
I don't know how long this answer will be, but I remember a few years ago Max Spears touched on the fact that he was the tribe of Dan. And I just wondered, he didn't explain fully why he thought that it was so important for the Dan tribe to be used in super soldier programs, etc. Could you let us know
Well,
Why do you think
again,
that is?
it's kind of a bloodline, but it's a kind of connection. I don't know all about the tribe of Dan. My friend is tribe of Dan. In fact, he has connections to or aspects of the original Daniel of the Lion. He is really he's pretty good, but he's been targeted all his life too. So he's just coming into his own as well, just like the rest of us. But he has the ability to command jinn and things like that, like Simon does. But the tribe of Dan, there's something, there's some genetic thing that it's like they go for people like me, Palladian types or Palladians, because I haven't got the defences other people have. Like I was talking to somebody this weekend who's sitting in the room, who has the ability to ward off these negatives very easily, very much a warrior spirit. But I try that, and I have to really work hard, because Simon explained this, that there's something to do with your genetics and your history, which planets you've been on before. It gives you that extra, shield against this negative energy, whereas I don't quite have that, so I have to work twice as hard to try and defend myself. And so at times, as I said, at the moment, I've had to call in extra help when I've been targeted, because I haven't got that extra bit that seems to fight that. But I am learning, so hopefully I'll be able to directly call in the beings and everything else to help me straight away soon. But I'm learning this process. But I do get targeted a lot, so, there's certain ones who don't want me to carry on, obviously. But I think the more they do that, the more I'm get determined. So the more they target me and think, oh, really? God help you now. So I'm stepping forward, and I'm going to get in contact with the Space Command and everything else. I'm really going for it. I do know. I've got a degree in psychology, all the rest of it, so I can put a suit jacket on, which I did today. I don't normally, but yeah, I actually got this for the Space Command, actually, because it was business attire, So I was like, okay, I'll have to go with the business attire thing, which I did do. So I did blend it in a certain amount, but of course I wouldn't wear the mask, so I didn't blend in that way. But I thought, oh well. But honestly, all the security staff knew me by the second day, and they were all laughing and joking with me, so they're all right. Sorry, I forgot the rest of it.
Any more questions? I thought I saw a couple of hands going up. No? Anything else you'd like to add there, Julie? A very comprehensive presentation.
See if there's anything else I've forgotten. Well, I've got, I could go on here. Well, basically, in a way, it's about everybody here too, because everybody here is a multi-dimensional being, and all of us here have the capability of being key players in the future, about leading our way, not letting the Space Command lead, or the government, which they lost the plot anyways, we know, but us leading the way. That doesn't mean to say you have to be on the front line on the demonstration, because they use, obviously they use facial recognition, which is another aspect I would go on to. When I was at Space Command, I was observing what they had, and they have facial recognition now and body recognition, or wherever you are on the planet. This year they're launching, they've got Skynet, this year they're launching Legion. Great name, isn't it? And the Legion is groups of satellites that can go down to 30 centimetres all over the planet. So 30 centimetres, and they're aiming for 25 centimetres soon. 3D, infrared as well. So every angle, so they can see who you are, not just see who you are, they can see your full body, not just from the top of the head. And that's the capability they're bringing in later this year. And also they've got AI coming in that can track and predict every move you make in a day. So everywhere you go, everywhere. Of course, they promoted it. Oh, isn't this positive? I thought, oh my God. I thought, talk about brain dead. But anyway, yeah, so he'll be saying, oh, well, it would save me time, because the AI will just tell me, turn left here, so I'll know where I'm going. Your meeting's in 5 minutes. Right, you've got 5 minutes. You can turn left here, go right there. So what sort of freedom's that? Every second and every move you make can be monitored. So, it's like, I think I'll have a coffee. Oh, you can't have a coffee. It's not your time for a coffee, is it? Right, you haven't done your press-ups today. Get doing your press-ups, girl. You got 5 minutes to do 6 press-ups, or we charge you £6. Oh, bloody hell. It's like, they could turn it that way, and then obviously the negatives are going to turn it that way. But it's about us fighting back against that and leading the way out of it. Because, see, honestly, these guys, they seem to be clueless. They honestly, because I was scanning their minds. And they're like, oh, this is going to be really good. Really good. It's like, you're in bubble land, mate. Do you not understand what this means? That your every second of the day is going to be controlled. AI isn't going to just sort of say, do what you want, I'll help you. It'll go, you will turn left now. You are not going to that shop. We will control what you do. So it's about us leading our way out of that. So that was another aspect of the technology that I was observing, seeing what they've actually got there and got planned. But it was interesting, they called it Legion. I thought, that's Romanist, but also like Legion as in Revelation. So it's up to all us. But if I can, hopefully, cross fingers, get the portal thing going, it will be really, really useful for everybody. Because once I can do it, I can help others do it, and then basically, stepping forward. But I'm not afraid of the forces now to be, because the so-called elites and all them lot and the Illuminati, because I want to engage with them to try and bring them into a positive path, but I'm not afraid of them anymore, because I know if they get me, even if they took me out, they've got a war with the arachnids then. So, because I've been accepted by them because of what I've done, because I've had to so much challenge. They know what challenge I've had trying to get over the arachnophobia. They know what challenge I've had to accept the hybrid as my own son. They can tell, they can read my mind, they can tell I'm genuine. So, it's about leading from your heart as well. But as I said, all of us here are very important, all of us. And it's about mind, body, spirits. It's about learning as much as we can of what they're up to. So I get emails from World Economic Forum. I've got Israeli Home Defense emails. I've got a lot of the Intel emails coming to me because I read them and see what they're up to now. Because you've got to, you keep your friends close and your enemy closer. And if possible, some of them are just misguided, influenced, and they don't know what they're doing. They're blooming hopeless. And it's like, I'm looking at them thinking, you guys have no clue. And like when I was there, I was the only one who dared. They had this Slido thing using a phone, which I'd never used before. Oh, isn't this posh? So you could ask a question if you download this app to the presenters. And I did. I went for it. I thought, right, okay, what about the aliens? And I did it in a tone because it was a government thing and a suits thing. In light of the recent discoveries of these craft we've seen, disclosure, I did it in this way, sort of thing, writing it. Have the Space Command got a strategy to deal with this sort of thing? I was kind of semi-taking the mickey out of them, but I was going to monitor their reaction, and the guy from Lockheed Martin, he's head of the European Lockheed Martin, he picked up on it, smiled, and then he was like, the space commander, who's a woman, he said, oh, we've even got one here that talks about the aliens and the possible alien threat. And I thought, yeah, it was me. And I was grinning. And he said, we will have a strategy about that, don't we? We do have a strategy, he said. Oh, yes, we've got some sort of strategy of this, yes. But I was trying not to laugh because I was in the audience and I'd asked this question. I didn't actually think he'd read it out because he was comparing the panel, but he did. And I thought, oh, yes. But it was so funny, the reaction. It really was hilarious because they were like, he was like grinning, and the others were like bum shuffling, because there was various ones there. So some of them were really uncomfortable with that question. And the space commander, the woman, she was like, yes, and kind of moved on. So I just found that really amusing anyway, but that may be my sense of humour. But yeah, any more questions before I go?
Hang on a minute, Ben. Well, hang on a minute, love.
No.
We want to hear your beautiful voice again, Ben.
Oh, Ben,
after
yeah.
yesterday.
I saw your eyes closing there, Ben, a bit, yeah.
I can't help that, unfortunately. Yeah. No, it's just quickly want to ask if it's on YouTube, the proceedings. Well, any other
I
video?
haven't been back home yet because I came straight from the Space Command to here. So, yeah, they have got some of it online, and I will put that forward if it can be public, whether it's just me accessing it or not, I'm not sure. But I've got some clips that I did and stuff like that. But there's clips I have seen so far. They're panning round, showing like this weird, I don't know how they do it. They show the compare pretty still and everybody else racing around. So they've got one bit on fast speed and the compare on slow. I don't know how they do that. But anyway, but they were scanning around the room and I'm thinking, I haven't looked at all of it, but like they haven't shown me yet, because I'm wondering if they edited that out because I wasn't wearing a mask, so I was not complying with their, we're all masked. So they may have edited me out, I'm not sure, but I will have to study because they've got various clips coming up still. Oh, it was completely sophisticated. I mean, it was in the Farnborough Exhibition Centre, and there was various lecture areas. So there was the main keynote area where they did the lectures, and then some of the other lesser ones. So I was picking, this was my schedule for the 2 days. So I marked off which ones I was going to, which ones I was going to listen to and that. So I did learn quite a lot of information from it, because I thought, well, learn what they're up to at this level anyway, because I realised they probably wouldn't share. They ain't going to talk about the dumbs or because that's a whole another level. So.
I'm surprised Nick Boat wasn't there.
No, he wasn't. But I mean, I'll leave these on the side. But there's like some of the slightly more advanced craft and stuff. But they're nothing as advanced as there is. But they were starting to talk about deep space travel and different forms of engines and micro nuclear engines and things like that. So I'll leave them on the side, and I've got, where is it? Is it here? Oh, right, is it? Right. So I'll leave these on the side, and I've got my cards on the side. So if you want to take a card, just feel free. You can contact me. But there is a word of warning. If you ring me, you'll get an answer machine, because I don't take direct calls. This is because in the past, they've used phones to trigger programs within me. So I have a little bit of phobia with directly answering a phone. This is for my own safety. So text me or call, or leave a message or something like that is the best method. And that's for my own safety, basically.
Or you can still talk to Julie over the weekend, human to human.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much. Big round of applause for our first talk of the day, Julie Phelps.
Thank you.
So now it's a break for a lovely Sunday roast, and we're going to have a 2-hour lunch break, much like yesterday, with the lovely barge crew. Give Coral and Emma and the team a massive round of applause there. They're going to get your lunches out. They've been amazing. So lots of people were here yesterday, a few weren't, so we need to exit the room for a little bit. It's not raining outside. Before they move the tables, just a couple of announcements about this afternoon. Sophia, who was here yesterday and went down exceptionally well, will be doing 2 sessions this afternoon, one at 2:30, straight after our long lunch, and then a break and then question and answer session. And at the end of the day, we'll be hearing more from Tony Topping, and we'll be doing some remote viewing. What an amazing way to end an amazing conference. So a fun-filled afternoon ahead, and a lovely lunch to follow. So please exit the room, let the barge team do their thing, and then we can all have lunch.